Thousands of years ago, King Yudhishthira posed a question to Lord Krishna that strikes at the core of the human condition. He wanted to know if there was a definitive, actionable way to erase profound, lifelong mistakes and find lasting peace in a world defined by sorrow. Krishna's answer was highly specific. He pointed to a precise window of time during the lunar month of Vaishakha, an observance known as Mohini Ekadashi. To understand this, we must look at the problem it solves, the moha jal. This psychological trap of worldly attachments constricts the soul over time. Mohini Ekadashi is an active method designed to systematically sever these exact bindings. To see how this severance works in practice, we have to look at a case study of someone who had reached a state of absolute moral collapse. The ancient texts point us to the kingdom of Bhadravati, situated along the Dhanks up to Saraswati River. Here lived a highly successful and pious merchant named Dhanpal. Dhanpal had 5 sons. While the first 4 followed in his virtuous footsteps, the 5th, Drishtabhuti, was fully consumed by the mohajal. He spent his days drinking, eating meat, and squandering his life. The breaking point arrived when Dhanpal caught Drishtabhuti with a prostitute. The merchant immediately disowned his son, exiling him from the family estate and leaving him to the streets. Without his father's wealth, Drishtabhuti's descent accelerated. He turned to rampant theft and eventually fled into the wilderness to escape capture. This exile left Drishtabhuti completely severed from societal grace and family protection, raising the question of whether a soul this deeply consumed by ruin could ever be salvaged. Drishtabhuti's reality shifted from the city to the brutal wilderness. He lived as a primitive hunter, starving, thirsty, and constantly on the move. His physical degradation now mirrored his spiritual state. The filth and isolation of the wilderness were the tangible results of his choices. During the month of Vaishakha, he happened to wander near the ashram of a sage who was returning from a ritual bath. As the sage passed by, a few stray drops of holy Ganga water fell from his wet clothes and landed directly on Drishtabhuti's caked skin. That contact triggered an awakening known as sadbuddhi. His chaotic impulses snapped into alignment, granting him clear-headedness. This didn't wash away his past, but it shattered his delusion. Now, Drishtabhuti could see the magnitude of his situation and the necessity for change. He immediately approached the sage with joined hands, confessed his sins, and asked for a way to escape the darkness he had created. Drishtabhuti's path toward redemption only opened after his ego was dismantled by hunger and isolation. This total collapse allowed the spark of sadbuddhi to take root where it otherwise could not. The sage instructed Drishtabhuti to strictly observe the Mohini Ekadashi fast during the Shukla Paksha of Vaishakha, following the specific methods prescribed in the ancient texts. Drishtabhuti followed the instructions with total sincerity. The result was the complete destruction of his lifelong burden of sin, leaving behind the weight of his past like a crumbling shell. Upon his death, Drishtabhuti achieved transcendence, reaching the divine realm of Vishnu Lok and leaving the cycle of suffering behind. Turning back to the dialogue between Krishna and Yudhishthira, we can see the broader intent of this lesson. The observance of Mohini Ekadashi is described as a systematic process to dissolve the heavy attachments and psychological patterns of the mohijal. By using the example of a man who had lost everything to his own shadow, the story illustrates that no one has fallen so far that they are beyond the reach of redemption. Krishna concludes by saying that simply recounting or hearing this story generates merit equivalent to donating 1,000 cows. In this way, the act of seeking to understand this spiritual escape route provides its own reward to the listener.